Here we have the IWI Masada. Comes in the cardboard box. You get your cable lock. One neat thing about it, it does come with interchangeable back straps. It comes with the medium one already installed, large and small, and I have switched those out, and I've, at least for now, decided to stick with the medium. One thing that we'll cover before we get away from the box, it does come optic ready, and it's nice to include these 4 base plates for some of the most common red dots that you might get for this. It ships with 2 17-round magazines that say made in Italy on them, so I've heard that they are likely to be Metgar mags. Has a 4.1 inch barrel. Takedown is what you might expect. Drop in the mag. Get that takedown lever there. Release, pull trigger, comes apart. Pretty standard construction on the semi-auto striker-fired 9 pistol here. Something of interest on the frame, though, is the modularity of it. The trigger grouping here can be taken out, and I don't know of anything at the moment that is existing for other grip modules, but it is an option in the future if it isn't already. Reassembly would be just in the reverse, obviously. Put it through, flip the lever, and you're done. Now, as far as the trigger pull, it has pretty much no take up. Very little you can see here. Very little, and it gets to a wall. Now, the wall isn't terrible at all, but it is slightly not as crisp of a wall and break as the Taurus G3, which I will bring out in just a moment and compare it to it. But this isn't horrible at all either. Reset, not too far out. I certainly have some pistols that are a lot further out than that, if they even have a reset. But this one's not bad at all. And when you're shooting, especially if you were to use this in a defensive situation, it's definitely not something you're going to bother about. The slight mushiness, that's just a nitpicking thing. That's not a deal breaker here for me. Now, the Taurus G3, which is fairly close to the Masada in terms of size and capacity, comes with, when I ordered it, a 15 and a 17 round magazine. I have it here with the 17 round just to get as close as possible to being evenly matched for comparison purposes. I might give a slight advantage to the G3 being a little bit thinner, if you consider that an advantage. Just depends on what you like, what you're comfortable with, really. I find both of these to be quite comfortable. Alright. Setting them on end, you can tell that there's just a little bit of a longer slide and barrel on the Masada, being 4.1 inch barrel, and to compensate for that, of course, it would be the slide a little bit longer than the G3 here, being just 4 inch. Pretty close, not a huge difference, I wouldn't think. If I were carrying either one of these, I don't feel like it would be a big enough difference to really matter, be too noticeable. Now, oh, the other thing, while I have them held up, you can see they're both 3 dot sights, and on the Masada you can see the white dots are much more noticeable, a lot easier to pop out. I don't really have a problem with the G3's dots, but these ones are noticeably different on that. Now, the biggest difference that I have felt is the trigger. I really like the trigger on the Taurus G3 here. Let's drop the mag a little bit easier. You have a lot more take-up, granted. A lot more travel there. but you get to a really nice, obvious wall, and then very nice click there. And the reset, I couldn't hope for it to be better. Pretty short there. Nice break. I prefer this trigger, actually. Not that the one on the Masada is bad at all, but just a personal preference. As far as price goes, you're looking at almost twice as much for the Masada. The G3 probably $250 or less, and then the Masada is maybe going to be $450 thereabouts, depending on where you get things and what kind of deals you get. Well, let's get this mag back in. I forgot to do a comparison on this. As far as height of it, almost exact. Pretty close. I don't know if that's going to show up how I'm holding with the camera, but very, very close there. Another thing I'll mention is it does have a Picatinny rail here, 4 slots on the bottom. If you want to attach a light or some kind of laser or whatever you might want to do there. It does have front slide serrations, anyone that likes to do that. The sights are windage adjustable, and they are metal, which is different than on the Taurus G3, those being plastic. I haven't had any problems with the G3 ones either, but some people get into the nitty-gritty here and like to have the metal sights. As far as how I'm shooting them, now they're both, I haven't put nearly as many rounds through them as I have other pistols, but I don't do too terribly, I don't think. I'm no Jerry Michalek, but I don't consider these groups to be too bad, especially given it was over 90 degrees and I was sweating bullets there that day. It was a fun challenge to try to shoot properly, but these are just standard size paper plates, and at couple second cadence or so, I think, for both of these groupings. Little bit better on the G3, I think, but then I do have a few more rounds through that than I do the Masada. Even still, again, if you were shooting this in a defensive situation, I mean, you can't complain too much about that. Certainly has room for improvement, as I always feel I do. I like to continue to try to get better about things. One interesting fact I like about this, I didn't know until after I got the Masada, is this pistol is used by the Philippine National Police. And my wife being Filipino, I thought that was an interesting bit of trivia. Here we can see the cover on the red dot cut that's already built into the slide. Just take those out, pop on whatever base you want and whatever red dot, screw everything down. It will work fine. And at the price point, I mean, there's red dots that cost as much or more than this pistol does altogether. So the fact that out of the box, for the price it is, we'll say $450 perhaps, having come ready and especially coming with the base plates, this is one of the big factors I think that adds value to this pistol in comparison to the Taurus G3. And you might consider, $240-ish or even less for the G3, and with almost exact dimensions, same capacity, decent sights, at least in my opinion, a better trigger, if you want to call it better. I don't really like that word, but it's all about preference again. You might consider, why is this going to be something I should consider when this is out there? Well, if you send off the G3 to get the slide milled in for red dots, you're going to have the cost involved of that. Or if you have a local gunsmith that can do it, or however you would accomplish that, there's cost involved, which adds to the price of this. Then you also have to make sure you get whatever you might need to mount it on there. This comes with it ready to go out of the box. So in my mind, that definitely helps justify the extra cost here. As far as handling the recoil, 9mm isn't terrible, of course, but even being a polymer frame here, the IWI Masada is not at all uncomfortable to shoot. The grip on it, for me, it's just fine. I don't feel like it's going to slip out of my hand at all. The weight and the balance of it makes it a very comfortable shooter. I feel I can get back on target quickly enough, and I definitely look forward to getting some more practice put into this pistol in the future.